Hi everyone, welcome to Init Talks. Happy to see everybody here. We didn't have Init Talks long time. First of all, want to say that we got Alex Goldschmidt with us today. Welcome, Alex.
Hi Lou, hi everybody. Good to be on. Thanks for the invitation, and really looking forward to a good chat over the next few minutes or so.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here with us. Guys, want to remind you that for Screen to Speed, we're going to have a upcoming event on April 19th with Snetterton and Formula 1 600. So if you're interested to watch this race with us, so please follow the channel. And let's start, Alex. So how did your love for racing first start? Like, was it karting or like you watched some races or something else?
Um, I go back to I'm going to really show my age here, Lou. I go back to the mid 1980s. My dad and a few of his friends were big petrol heads, and we got the opportunity. Well, myself and my best friend at school at the time, we ended up going to Brands Hatch, and this was back in the day when Formula One had pre-qualifying. We missed pre-qualifying by 20 minutes, ended up watching Formula Ford. From then, Dad made it a usual thing. I think the first Grand Prix we watched together was the iconic 1988 Monte Carlo Grand Prix when Senna was trying to lap Prost, put it in the barriers just before the tunnel. But it was that sense of how Ayrton drove the car, like it was his tango partner on the dance floor, and it just captivated me. The sound, the noise, just the visceral nature of motorsport. And then I became a really, really big fan. We were watching as many Grand Prix as we could, depending on what the family was doing, and it just went on from there. After every single, like Formula One was part of my life for the best part of 2 decades, and then I started enjoying other motorsports, so like sports cars, feeder single seaters. DTM was another one that I really got into. And then most recently in the last decade, IMSA World Sports, the World Endurance Championship, and there's so much more motorsport out there to really enjoy. And I've become a lover of all things that's got an engine note and burns tires, burns fuel, and provides great racing.
So you're really passionate about racing, all the noises and all the stuff. That's really cool. So I think we here all really like that in racing, definitely. Do you remember the first time you realized like that really your thing? So not like you like watching races and go for events. You realize that you can jump into industry and be in it.
I sort of got an itch that I wanted to scratch back in the late 2000s, so like 2008, 2009. And I wanted to be like the best F1 reporter going. Formula One was what I really, really loved, and it was like at that level, a little bit higher than everything else. So I got in touch with some people. I didn't really have any experience, but my mum always told me that when I was younger, she said you found it that I would find it better to communicate on a pen and a piece of paper rather than speaking to people. And through that, I made some connections with, say, a pop culture website that needed a motorsports writer. I then ended up going through multiple different websites whereby it was voluntary work, so you weren't getting paid for what you loved doing. And it was then when I got to like 2015 where commentary became on my radar,
Mm-hmm.
and I got the opportunity to do some voluntary work on Downforce Radio, a channel that was founded by a good friend who is still a good friend to this day, Jake Sanson. And I ended up doing the 4 hours of Fun Cup, Brands Hatch Indy. We had every single chaotic situation. We had multiple safety cars. We had slippery surface flags. The weather came in 30 minutes before the end of the race, and we were red flagged with 90 seconds to go because the rain
Mm-hmm.
just went completely ballistic. And then I thought, after that, I just went, you know what? I'd rather do the commentary because you're able to provide your personality, but also tell the story the way that you see it
Mm-hmm.
to the general viewers or listeners out there. And so I got bitten by the bug, and commentary is now my livelihood. I travel around so many places. I think I did 80,000 kilometers worth of travel last year, 43 flights. and that's every single kilometer measured. So from like driving to the airport, flying in the plane to a location. I think my longest trip last year was London Heathrow to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia to
Mm.
commentate at the Sabang karting circuit. And that was about a good 18,000 kilometers traveled there and back with a stop off in Doha on each journey. So
Mhm.
it's crazy how chaotic my life has been at weekends. But the good thing is, I've got a very, very close family, and it's always nice to come back home and sleep in your own bed when you've been away for 3 to 4 days, and you just like, I just need the comforts of home.
Mhm. Let's talk a little bit about your travels. Do you remember any funny things which happened? Also, good to know that you visited Sepang. I race here a lot of times with Formula BMW, then with Formula 4. Just in love with the circuit. Conditions are tough, but
Mhm.
Sepang is a great one. Um, yeah.
Yeah, funny travel stories. Actually, most recently, we're talking probably within the last month. If anyone might remember that London Heathrow was shut down due to the sub power station 3 miles south bursting into flames. Well, I was due to fly to Brussels to go to Caté de Fagnes in southern Belgium, right off the Franco-Belgian border. So there's been no notifications on my smartphone, no notifications on the N25 leading to Heathrow, and I rock up to the car park and they go, the barrier's up. So like instantly you think, what's going on here? And they said, Heathrow's closed today. Like this, and I go, what? Are you kidding me? I've got a business trip. And like he looked me up and down. He said, "You didn't like look like you're going on business." I said, "I'm a motorsports commentator. Come on." I said, "Don't judge appearances by the cover, you know." And so I said, "Well, what's the situation?" Oh well, the the parking provider will get in touch with you. Obviously, your flight provider will get in touch with you, which I have to give shout out to British Airways. They were absolutely spot on. Flight was cancelled, and I was able to rebook my flights for another time. So the good thing is being in the southeast of the United Kingdom, you're not that far away from the Eurotunnel.
Mhm.
So, and this is like 20 past 5 in the morning, Lou. And I just gone, right, the only way, so I looked on flights for Gatwick, direct to Brussels, none. Luton, none. Stansted, no. Uh, London City Airport, no. And I went, okay, right, the only way I can do this is that I've got to book the Eurotunnel and rebook the flights for another time. So, which luckily enough, I had an event to
Mhm.
the same location 2 weeks later. So there I was at 7 o'clock in the morning booking Eurotunnel, uh, Eurotunnel crossings to and from Brussels, to and from Calais, and I was communicating with my sister, and she'd gotten up early because my nephew Austin, who's the apple of our eye here. He's 5 years old. He's turning 6 in August. He's fully autistic, non-verbal, um, and is very, very sensory sensitive. So, like, say, noise, light, sudden sounds, sudden movement, even. She'd kept my sister up a little bit during the night from about 3 until 5 that morning. And I said, right, okay, I need to book the Eurotunnel ticket. She said, well, you've got to do the work, you've got to do it, so just get it done. I then had to stop off at the local car spares place to pick up a first aid kit because that was the only thing I was missing. So I had the high visibility vest, the hazard triangle, the bulb kit, um, and then the first aid kit was the only thing I needed. And I think I drove about 1,400 kilometers in total there and back, and all the
Mhm.
surrounding mileage. So that was my most recent funny experience. Other things that have happened to me, um, I've had hire car companies, major hire car companies, actually say we've run out of vehicles. So like literally, then you have to find another provider, and then you find that
Mhm.
provider is more expensive, yada yada yada. So it's like minor things, but when I got to Marienburg, I spoke with a couple of the team. They said, "How are you feeling?" And I just started laughing. And they said, "Why? What's happened?" And I went, If I tell you the journey that I've had just now, you'd probably tell me to go away and just say, "Shut up, that's not true." And we just all had a laugh over dinner and a drink over it. So that has been, I think, the most in terms of funny travel stories. There was also one in 2020. I'm just trying to think now. 2023. I was due to go over to the Bahrain International Karting Circuit for work for Rotax, and I get a phone call the week before I'm due to fly. Oh, what's your availability like? And it was the dates for the week after, and I said,
Hmm.
well, you realise I'm in Bahrain. Um, so then uh, the deal, where the agreement was made pretty quickly within 48 hours of the initial discussion. And then I remember having to wait 3 hours because the flight for British Airways to London Heathrow from Bahrain was delayed. So there I was on my smartphone watching motorsport.tv for about 3 hours, waiting until I could check my bag in. But the the recent travel to Belgium, I think, is the worst sort of problematic journey. But you just have to. It comes with the territory. It's first world problems, as the hashtag suggests. And it is what it is. It's just part and parcel of it. You just have to roll with the punches. And if you're going to be running a little bit behind, you just tell the organizer, saying, "Look, this is the situation. I'll be with you as soon as I can."
Hmm. Well, you got a really busy life and a lot of adventures in it, definitely.
Yes, that's very true, Lou. I mean, yeah, it's 43 flights last year. I think already we're now what we're coming up to. I've got three. Oh well, just for you folks out there that do follow me on socials, I've got Super GT, motorsport.tv for Saturday and Sunday, Porsche Switzerland, Saturday all day, Dutch karting championship season over in Berghem. So I think probably by the time I get home at about midnight on Monday morning, I'll have done just 5,000 kilometers worth of traveling alone that weekend.
Hmm. So yeah, it's really hard to be a commentator for motorsport events, definitely.
Yeah, it is, especially when you're one person that's in demand. I mean, especially with the karting, because the next weekend I do the first round of the German Kart Championship, funnily enough, in Marienburg, which means I've got to fly to Brussels again.
Hmm.
Heathrow, don't let me down, please. Don't let me down. Yeah, so it's the case you have to be on a bit of a wing and a prayer, like I say, Lou. It's just you roll with the punches, but there's apart from the travel, there's just so much more involved in being a commentator. You're constantly researching, and like for instance, this is my Bible. This goes everywhere with me, and it's got all my notes that I've spent the last like literally well, from what people can see, there's like entry lists. I've got notes underneath. I've
Hmm.
got track maps, um, championship standings. Like literally, that has taken me multiple conversations to sort out, because people might say, "Oh yeah, well you know all this information as a commentator." Yes, but you've got to be fully prepared. And if you can't get the information before the event, if you're there the day before or 2 days before, you can try and find the drivers and speak to them and say, right, okay, I don't know much about your past history. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself in the next couple of minutes? And then what you also need is a good old notebook as well, just in case, with a pen. I mean,
Hmm.
I never leave home with any without any of that. It's just um, part and parcel of being in this industry.
Yeah, definitely if you got different events, like you said, you got Porsche, you got karting, and different drivers completely in this series. So you need to be up to date every time. And yeah, that's good that you got this folder and you're well prepared for every time. That's great. Can you tell me what's your favorite part about commentating outside of travels, some funny situations which happened with you?
Um, to be honest, Lou, I think the one of the biggest things for me is when you travel. This is aligned with the travel side of it. When you meet people in the paddock and you get to know not just the driver, but you get to meet the people that work with the driver, like the engineer, the mechanic, the
Hmm.
team boss. You get to spend time with people, and that's the thing as a commentator. You are the person that is the voice of that championship, or one of the voices of that championship. So you've got to be a little bit on the mic. You can be a bit more of an extrovert, a bit more outgoing with your personality. But you've got to be that people person. You've got to be that, professional, but you still have that positive mental attitude. And that's one of the biggest things that I love about real life motorsport. Um, is the people that you work with as part of the organization, the people that you meet, and it's not just the teams and the drivers; it's also the families. Like
Hmm.
say younger sister, younger brother, elder sister, elder brother, mum, dad, grandparents. Um, I've had it where four generations were in the same paddock at one time. So you had daughter,
Hmm.
racing driver, mum, grandmother, and then because of the genetics in the family, from what I was told, the great grandmother was there as well,
Wow.
which was mind blowing. But it's more the case of it is about the people, and it is about when everything's calmed down on the track, Lou. It's more the case of it's the ambience, the atmosphere. Like everyone has just gone right. The racing's done. Time to chill out, get to know people. And there's been times when families or teams have invited me out for dinner, and I've accepted because you want to make sure that okay, yes, people might say, well, you might just be freeloading. No, it's about the spirit of community, and it doesn't matter whether it's sim racing or real life. There is a big community aspect about what we do, and you cannot deny that because we're all part of the human condition.
Yeah, that's really true. So this is exactly what I really like about sim racing and doing my streams on Twitch and iRacing community as well. That's all about people who into this industry, and on my streams also, I'm all the time happy to see them, and they all got different stories in their lives, but we connect here with sim racing with streams, and that's a really good thing, definitely. Um, do you have a race which you've called that you will never forget in your commentary career?
Well, as the surname suggests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually I am part German by descent. My grandfather was born in the suburbs of Charlottenburg in Berlin, not too far away from the Alexanderplatz and the Berlin Tempelhof Airport, which is now used predominantly for Formula E. 2023, I was the circuit commentator for the circuit experience for Formula E for that round of the championship. And completely in German, I was commentating the whole weekend on every free practice session, qualifying, and both races. And just to think that I was only 25 minutes away by taxi from the place where my grandfather was born was quite a seminal and quite an emotional moment, Lou. And I remember our broadcast director, Dale Brown, he said, Alex, for the final time this weekend, well done. You may stand down. So I basically I cried my tear ducts dry for about 5 minutes,
Hmm.
just because of the realization of how from my grandfather Herbert, who passed away when I was 5, he legally emigrated to the United Kingdom before the Second World War and had to go to the local constabulary in London every 6 months with a document called the Aliens Order, where they would interview him, ask him where he's been, what he's been doing, and then they would stamp the book and say, okay, you're good for another 6 months. And to have that, where you got grandfather to father to son,
Hmm.
and having that sort of full circle, I got really emotional, and like people could see that my eyes were like red,
Hmm.
not on the pupils or anything, but like my tear ducts were dry, my face was bright red, and they wondered why, and so I told them, and they went. that's just really, really awesome. And it was quite nice because um, oh God, yeah. Now I've reminded myself of another bad journey home, and it was funny enough. It was that weekend, but I'll give you the shortened version of that in a second. But it was just like people connected on that emotional level, and
Mm-hmm.
that again goes to that community side of things. But that weekend, Berlin had a airport strike at Berlin Brandenburg, so I had to take the train to Hamburg. Got delayed by an hour and a half leaving Hamburg Hauptbahnhof. Got to the hotel at 1 in the morning. Thought, okay, his flight's at 6:30. I'll get up at like 4:30 and have a shower. My alarm woke me up at 5 o'clock, and I just went, I've got to get through security, and I made it by last call. And then I was quite happy to get back to home to UK soil at London Gatwick, even though I'd flown from Heathrow. But yeah, to me is the most emotional moment I will never forget at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really good to, return back to places which give you some emotions and you share these emotions with other people. And also that makes like easier situation by the end for you. So it's really cool,
Mhm.
definitely. Um, let's speak about Formula E a little bit. So I know that you're doing some commentary on them. So tell me more about this.
Well, I'm part of the loudspeaker agency, which is run by Gemma Scott and Louise Beckett, two women that have made their careers as presenters and pit lane reporters in motorsport, most notably GT World Challenge powered by AWS. For Gemma, and Louise Beckett was the pit lane reporter for the World Endurance Championship for the World Feed for many, many years. And about 5 years ago, they set up a loudspeaker agency, which is to help other talent get the opportunity to commentate or present or be involved within not just motorsport but other sports beside. Because some of the commentators that I know, such as Chris McCarthy, who's just become the world feed commentator for FIA Formula 2, following in the footsteps of Alex Jakes. Chris was their first ever client, and I've known Chris since 2017. He was the one that gave me my start in this business as a commentator. Um, Reckless Racing saying that's convenient. I'm heading to Miami,
Yeah.
Miami on Saturday for Formula E. I have to give a shout out to my good buddy, who's now the world feed commentator, Tom Brooks. It's quite funny how a lot of people that I know in the industry that are that are making these strides forward are now getting that recognition. So for me, I just was I got contacted by Gemma. I think it was late 2022 or early 2023, and she said you're being shortlisted for the Formula E gig in Berlin. 2 weeks before the event, I got the call. I was sitting down having dinner with my family, and I've seen her number, and I've gone, I need to answer this. And they said, "Is it what we think it is?" I said, "Now we find out." So I walked away from the table, and she said, "Yeah, you got the gig."
Mm-hmm.
It's the only time I've done Formula E commentary, but um, one of the funniest stories there, I got the brightest, like where you get these really, really brightly coloured, like Caribbean style hoodies. Well, I had the one that made me look like I'd come from Barbados, only I needed a tan on my face, and it had Formula E in pink letters. And one of the things that was happening was that after qualifying, one of the presenters, either Toby or Kayana, would come into the porter cabin, which is literally just off the start finish straight, and ask me, well, what a great qualifying. And then I'd become a mini celebrity. I was like thinking, why aren't people interested in, like say Nico Müller or maybe even Daniel Abt, who was
Mm-hmm.
testing the new Gen 3 car? I said, why am I getting? And then I end up on someone's Instagram story, and my picture with them is above Danny Kvyat of all people,
Mm-hmm.
who was doing the young driver test the following week in Berlin. And I was like thinking, this is really, really crazy. And then the amount of comments for people that had actually been there either on the Saturday or the Sunday. They either messaged me personally and said, thanks for doing such a great job. Really enjoyed your commentary. Hopefully you're back next year." Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But you have to take these opportunities whilst you get the chance.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was great experience for you anyway. And would like to ask you because you mentioned before that you like about racing and motorsport, the sound of engine and all this stuff. So, what do you think overall about electric racing? And will it have a future? And maybe we're going to see like more series like this.
Well, based on 25 years of automotive experience, I was in the auto industry until September 1st, 2020. I think electric is part of the future. It is not the complete solution. You're seeing championships like DTM, Super GT over in Japan, running on sustainable fuels. So they're using these CNFs, which are carbon neutral fuels. You're seeing Total Energies, for instance, for the crowd for the 24 hours of Spa, and for the world. Like part fuel partners are now going into sustainable fuels. Like say Total Energies for the 24 hours of Le Mans, they did something which I thought was quite quirky, but it actually was a quite good marketing ploy. That Total Energies based their sustainable fuel on wine grape residues,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had the 24 hours of Le Mans virtual, powered by Energies energy bars, which were made from the same residues.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see that how the technological advances. I'm looking at electric as a partial solution. Fuel cell technology is so underrated. It is obscene. I mean, like Hyundai with the iX35 fuel cell vehicle back in late 2010s. Then they came out with the Nexo, which was the second generation of it. BMW with the with the X5. They've had like multiple uh, hydrogen fuel cell cars being trialed by companies. Um, Carbon neutral fuels, definitely the way to go. If Porsche can spend over 150 million euros on a
Mm-hmm.
plant in Chile to keep the 911, their Halo car, alive, well, you can be damn sure that other fuel partners like say Shell, like say Total, Esso, all the big brands, I think have yes, they've drilled for so many years, but it's their time to help keep internal combustion engine cars on the road. We it's I think it's just that they're from when like say people were saying we're going to be net zero by
Mm-hmm.
Formula One is a perfect example. They want to be carbon neutral by 2030.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of their production team is on site at the circuits. They're located at FOM headquarters in Biggin Hill. Like say Chris McCarthy, Alex Brundle, some of the other commentators, they will go to Biggin Hill. They will not be flown on site because CO2 being pumped into the air by more people flying, and it's easier on the environment. 100% sustainable fuels will be coming in, I think, for 2026. And now you're seeing a lot more motorsports are doing it. So if the motorsport industry can do it, why can't the automotive industry
Mm-hmm.
see past the end of their noses, in my honest opinion, as a having been a professional? I saw so much technology, like say when if anyone might remember the old Mark IV Golf GT TDIs with what was the Pumperdusa direct injection diesel technology, which revolutionized the market. um that was a fantastic technology. It's only Euro 6 emissions that basically said Volkswagen you can't do, or Euro 5 Volkswagen couldn't do it anymore. But I think it's more the case of motorsport can lead the way for automotive, and we
Mm-hmm.
see that with the technological advances at Le Mans, especially with the LMDH cars we now see. There's a varying amount of solutions, different power plants like a twin turbo V8 in the Lamborghini Squadron Corsa 63. You got the 4 litre. Now, this is an interesting bit of information. I didn't know this until I found out about the spec of the car. The BMW MV8 hybrid, the engine that's in it is the original 4 litre V8 that's now got two turbochargers on it. And it's the engine that powered the original returning BMW M3 when BMW made its return to the DTM in the early 2010s. So there are solutions to every problem. And I think that the governments, in some respects, have tried to tried to look into their crystal ball that's obviously broken and go, well, okay, we need to make sure all cars are, all new cars are electrified, fully electrified by 2035. That will never happen because the
Mm-hmm.
amount of R&D, the amount of development, the time crunch that the manufacturers are under, and that's why you're seeing Mercedes going away from the 2 litre four-cylinder turbocharged C63. They're bringing back the V8. So you're now seeing that government government forcing restrictions on manufacturers are hurting the reputations of said manufacturers. I don't, and I'm glad that they are bringing back the V8s. It's what Falterbacher is known for. So I think the automotive industry, with the help of their motorsport arms, can really progress the technologies further. And if motorsport can develop, get like say LMDH cars on the road in a couple of years, who's not to say they can help accelerate the R&D programs of their automotive cousins, like say at Munich for BMW, Stuttgart for Mercedes-Benz, Ingolstadt for Audi, and so on and so forth. There is I think that if you let the motorsport arms help the development race, we'd be along a lot better than we would be now at this point.
Yeah, I think I agree with you because all the best technologies we can test, like in motorsports, and then apply them to like normal cars. And I kind of agree that electric cars not only one solution, so we can use different options for this to make
Hmm.
environment better, and also to have like opportunity for people to choose what the best for them, because not really all people are crazy about all electric cars, and they can be a little bit
Hmm.
hard to travel by long distance. That's still a problem, I think. So yeah, I think that you're on point with this, definitely.
I think also coming on to, in some respects, trying to look at my own carbon footprint. I do drive a lot, I do fly a lot, but most recently, um, I've actually been embracing using electric vehicles as hire cars. When you got like say the Polestar 2, the Polestar 3, you look at what BMW is now doing with the i5. I I think it was January, late January this year, I was going to a karting event, and Six actually auto upgraded me for no additional cost. So I'd like booked, I think it was the iX1, which is their entry level SUV electric vehicle. And
Hmm.
then I'm waiting for, because this, think this is, yeah, this is another thing that happened this year. We had a problem where Belgian air traffic control was the mainframe computer had blown a gasket and shut down. So I looked and I ended up in a BMW i5 eDrive 40 M Sport Touring, which had 340 brake horsepower rear wheel drive, but it had a range of about 480 kilometers,
Hmm.
which for a car that weighs nearly 2 tons is pretty good. I think it's just that when cars like the Nissan Leaf came out when Carlos Ghosn was in charge of Renault and Nissan and tried to spearhead the electric vehicle revolution, the technology wasn't at that point where we could say, yes, you can do 10 to 80% in 20 minutes, and that will give you 300 kilometers of range, meaning that if you're 210 kilometers away, you've got that window. Back
Hmm.
then, electric vehicles were probably, if you were lucky, getting 100, kilometers from a full state of charge, which in my money is about 62 to 72 miles per full charge. But now the technology is accelerating to the point where Tesla is not going to be the big power player. The automotive big brands are catching up,
Hmm.
and it's just about finding all these alternatives. I think it's just, but and I actually enjoy. I'll be honest with you. I love any kind of motorsport, even Formula E. When they went Gen, now they've gone Gen 4, four-wheel drive, can do nearly 200 plus miles an hour on a city street.
Hmm.
Now you've captured my attention, but now I'm worried. It's sort of like thinking, does Formula E have to move away from city circuits, from street circuits to actual tracks? Um, that's the big hurdle that I think they've got to overcome. Extreme E, the Rallycross series, has now become Extreme H, H standing for hydrogen. So there are people that are willing, like Alejandro Agag. He is the biggest catalyst for this revolutionary change in
Hmm.
motorsport. And when Lucas de Grassi was the first test, Lucas de Grassi has been a part of Formula E from day one. He was the first employee that Agag wanted him on board. They knew each other very well, and people laughed at Formula E. I don't see people laughing now, and now we're in, I think it's season 11, and they're off to Miami. It's always about the doubt the naysayers and just carry on your own path, and that's exactly what Alejandro Agag and so many other people have done.
Yeah, definitely world changing and good alternatives to have. That's a great thing, definitely. I also noticed that we got a lot of electric cars outside, and it's great. It's great, and good to see that Formula E finally, taking the reputation from people, and people really enjoy racing these cars, and that's great. I really like about Formula E. That's I think they're running the same chassis. I really like series like this, like IndyCar, for example, because I think that drivers can show their skills here. Of course, Formula One is good in its own way with all this, fights between teams and engineers. It's really cool, also. But as a driver, I really like series where you can show your driving skills.
I think that's also another thing that is very much overlooked these days. Um, it's just a case of showcasing talent rather than needing a budget.
Hmm.
Um, so it's just one of those things where you just have to sort of like say, back in the 70s, back in the 80s, drivers got drives because they earned it or they were picked up. Now it's all about academies, and I can understand motorsport is a business. We're in a very, very different time. Things have evolved so quickly. Um, and now I would rather see drivers given the benefit of the doubt through what they've achieved rather than how much money they have to bring to the table.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you in this. And let's move on and speak about your own podcast. I know that you're doing it. So tell me more about how you want to start your own podcast. What actually lead you to this?
Well, my podcast, which is on my own YouTube channel, is called Commentator's Corner. It's to give an insight of the personalities behind the people who have certain roles within the industry. So, from commentators, presenters, driver coaches, drivers, personalities, let's say. And it's more to, it's a bit of a more of an anecdotal podcast, if you will. Um, and it's about finding about characters, about people, um, talking about the community, and talking funny stories, going off on tangents. And I think the longest episode was with my good friend Adam Weller, which was about the best part of nearly 2 hours we were talking for. But it was one of those conversations where you just had to let it flow. It is available on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com at Alex Goldschmidt, you should find me. And then it's available on. I'm now doing the video. Well, the video version is not only on YouTube but now on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts, and I'm really enjoying doing something whereby I get to speak to people that I know or people who I don't know in the industry, find out about them. A bit like what you people do here at Init Esports with the Init Talks. It's really, really good to find out about different personalities, different individuals.
Yeah, that's why we got this podcast to show people who's in motorsport, who can inspire people to jump into this industry and be a part of it. Definitely. Can you tell me what's the difference for you, and what's the preparation for you? What's the difference with commentary and with podcast? So, what are you doing differently for this one?
Podcast is basically let it flow. Just get the guest. I think. you can have a set line of questioning, but it doesn't make the podcast feel natural. In
Mhm.
my eyes, I look at it rather than quantity. I look at quality, and you're talking about the personality of the individual. Individual. Sorry, trying to get my words out right. Sorry. I know we're going to be short on time in a second because I got a sim racing broadcast to do very shortly. Um, but it's basically let the conversation flow, but with the commentary is have so much information that your mind uh, is swamped by it, but it helps you to do your job right. And it's a famous saying here in the United Kingdom, and I know quite a few people uh, will will definitely be on the same wavelength as me, which is called the 7 Ps. Piss poor preparation promotes piss poor performance. And I stand by that mantra every single time because if I don't prepare, I don't feel I've done enough to make sure that my job is safe.
Mhm.
Commentary is a cutthroat business. Um, a lot of us are good friends, but we are all out for a specific goal. Um, I look at my commentary career so far that I've been very fortunate to work with some great people. I continue to work with some great people, and there's other people that I've worked. I mean, I've got to know Steffi Bow really well, and I love her. You know, let's just roll with it. Um, and that's how my podcast is. It is basically on. It's now based more on her mantra of what she said to me when we
Mhm.
finally met in person. And hopefully, Steffi, we get to catch up very soon. So, ciao, over to California. Um, it's more the case of the podcast needs to be a living, breathing entity. And if you strangle that with predetermined questions, which I did for the first 15 episodes, and I just went, it doesn't feel, you know, when you just get that feeling in the pit of your stomach where it doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what I felt. There is one person that everyone will know in the sim racing commentary space, George Morgan. Um, he's the only guest that I've interviewed twice, and it was mainly I wanted to. I had a rebrand of the show, so new graphics, new look, and I thought, right, who can I bring on that was one of my original guests, and we talk about what's changed since that interview and now. And
Mhm.
George, wonderful guy, absolutely passionate, and he was up for it, and it was. I mean, I looked back between after I'd recorded that episode, uploaded it, premiered it. I looked at the first episode and I just went, just look how far you, Alex, not anybody else, you through passion, through grit, determination, have managed to get this podcast to where it is now.
Mhm.
And now I'm looking at thinking, okay, so I've done another further revision of the graphics that where I'm talking to my guest. Um, it just makes so much more sense. And I'm looking at other ways in which, okay, how can I change it up? And I love the format because it just means it's completely 100% natural. It's not forced, and it's my podcast, and no one
Mhm.
can take that away from me, which is one of the wonderful things.
Yeah, that's good that you mentioned. You can have a look on yourself, like on first videos which you made, and it's really cool opportunity actually to have because sometimes I watch my first streams and also like, oh, you've come really long way to where you are now, so it's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, I'm still commentating on sim racing. Like I said, in about 10 minutes' time, we're going live with a radicals at Suzuka.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I'd love to continue this conversation, Lou, I think I need to skedaddle because my producer's trying to call me as we speak. Bless him.
Okay.
But it's it. I mean, I've got one bit of advice for you people out there that want to do commentary. From my perspective, make sure that you work hard, but you enjoy every single step of the journey. Because if you don't enjoy it, you're going to be basically falling flat on your face if you don't have, if you don't have the relevant know-how in how to get into this industry. Find one of us, talk to one of us, see how we can help. I've given, I mean, as a you'll know this lady as well, Lou, Ash Vanderlei. She came to me and asked me for advice, which then led on to the SRO job in the United States. She came to me and I said, Ash, if you know what you're worth, go and get what you're worth. It's like a famous saying from Rocky Balboa in one of his movies. And when you have to look at these monologues, they're actually quite powerful. But there's also a very, very interesting answer that David Croft, lead commentator for Sky Sports F1, said to me when I interviewed him at the Autosport show, which is never give anyone a reason to tell you no. He started from hospital radio, and now he's been in Formula One as the lead commentator for Sky Sports for the best part of over 2 decades alongside Martin Brundle. And if that's not a way of saying, don't let people tell you no,
Hmm.
David Croft is the epitome of that.
Yeah, I think main thing just to be passionate what you're doing, and this is what will lead you and motivate you to go forward and improve, like step by step, and go to the future. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So really, I have to say, Lou, it's been an absolute pleasure joining you here on Init Talks, and I'm just looking forward to what not just in esports but also screen to speed. It's going to be doing obviously a lot coming up, so I'll be keeping my eyes on it. And don't worry, you've definitely got a cheerleader in this corner here in the United Kingdom.
Okay, Alex, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure to talk with you and also get a lot of new things for myself. Guys, thank you so much for watching Init Talks. Don't forget on 19th of April, we'll have event on Init Esport channel, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.